Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Well, live from Super Soul Farm, this is our Wisdom of the Sages podcast with your host, Raghunath, and bestie co-host, Kaustubha Das, your daily yoga podcast. And we have just got back from our journey around sacred India. What a trip. A bunch of people. We're broadcasting live on Zoom as well. So we got 68 people here this morning with us. And we've been broadcasting around the subcontinent of India, which has been sort of challenging and sort of fun, and because we have the live group here. Today I have nobody in my room with me. Mara's still on vacation. We left her in Africa. Our executive producer is Tom, who's working on his movie right now, and so I'm waiting for him to get back. So it's just me, Kaustubha, and the international group. Oh, I see everybody's waving. Anyway, this is the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's great for yoga teachers. It's great for people who are interested in Vedic knowledge, and not just to pass their yoga teacher training 200-hour. It's for people who want to put these principles of yoga, this wisdom, this direction, this internal compass to a practical, relevant application. That's what this is. Practical, relevant application. Anything you want to share about your journey in India, Kaustubha?
Well, I guess, we just got back from about, 5 weeks or so in India, beginning with a series of different trainings that we're doing. We had 3 going on at the same time, a yoga teacher training, a wisdom training, which is all about studying these sacred texts, and a kirtan training for learning how to play kirtan, play the instruments, sing well, know the meaning of it all. Which was, I loved it. I think it's a great way to go. I think it's something that hopefully our listeners can take part in the future if they have that interest. And then after that, we took a smaller group. Altogether, we had, how many was it total? It was
22.
No, but the first part, it was like nearly 60 people, right?
The first part we had like 56 or 60 people.
Okay, and then we took another 22 people to Jaipur and Vrindavan. I feel fulfilled. I feel a little under the weather getting back home yesterday, but happy to be home.
You look good.
You too. And I don't know. Actually, I feel kind of like we're starting the podcast again, because now we're back the way we used to do it early in the morning, 5 a.m.
We used to do it, sitting up at 5 a.m. There's something nice about waking up at 5 a.m. before everybody gets up, get your stuff together. Get your life together. Get your first thing you do in the morning, your first food in your mouth, so to speak, is something healthy and wholesome, as opposed to putting some junk food in your mouth. So in the same way, in our ears, we feed it with the Bhagavatam. It helps recalibrate the brain. It's some truth, and you can apply it to your life. And that being said, I may end up having you read the Bhagavatam today, because I'm on 90%. I'm realizing my wire to charge my phone isn't even working that good. It's like,
okay. Well, then maybe you should go ahead and plug in your good mic then.
Maybe. Okay.
All right.
Do that. So anyway, we are on, where are we?
We're on
Canto 1, Chapter 5.
Text 11.
Text 11. Good place to start.
It's a great place. It's a great section in Bhagavatam.
I do want to say, these places where we go, these holy places, they're not ordinary places. And even though you can really get, me and Kaustubha have been going to India for 30 years. Today, by the way, is the anniversary of my initiation. And initiation is when the teacher gives you a name, and it represents sort of like, you're initiating something. You're initiating your birth. And it's your spiritual birth. And there's something very powerful about that connection with the tradition and with the lineage. And that's why it's considered one of the, the most important character of the qualities of, what's the nectar devotion? Characteristics
of pure devotional service
is taking initiation. Initiation means you're making a formal commitment to teachers. I'm in a tradition, and I'm going to have some parameters in my life. Now, a lot of people, when they hear parameters in their life, I don't like parameters. I don't want to I don't want to cheat myself. I don't want to cheat myself out of experience. But anyone who's been through a 12-step program, right, or is dealing with addiction or anything like, they know like parameters are good things. It's not bad. We think parameters like cheat us out of freedom. Parameters enhance freedom. You just got to be careful what those parameters are for, what they're protecting you from. There's just like, for example, there's parameters in what I eat. I don't eat foods that are going to get me sick or foods that I'm allergic to. I'm not going to eat foods that are refined or junky.
Just 1 minute, Raghu. I think Jamuna. Okay.
I just got her. Just got her.
Jamuna Jaya.
So
right.
Parameters are great things to have, and we really have to dial in. And these Vedic traditions, they had parameters. They're built into the actual culture. Now, every culture has their parameters, but they change according to time. And sometimes they do have to be adjusted to time. But there's certain values that are recommended to really hold on to, because they keep our car on the track, so our train on the track, so to speak. And the yoga system called these yamas and niyamas, or certain disciplines or guardrails to assist us on our journey in this body. And we appreciate those healthy parameters. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
Well, you started by saying something about these holy places aren't ordinary places. Was there a connection that you're making?
Where was I going with that?
I don't know. You got into the parameters, but were you saying that the parameters are what's necessary to perceive how special those places are? Is that what your idea was?
Ever feel like your head is like a piece of cheese? That's sort of where I'm at this morning. A little cheese-headed.
All right.
Off.
You know what's a good thing to do then? Read Bhagavatam.
Read the Bhagavatam. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, they're not ordinary places.
They certainly are not. You know, we're going to read, depending on how many verses we read, but even if we read just a few verses today, we read about Narada Muni, this greatest of Bhakti-yogis, instructing his disciple Srila Vyasadeva, the great soul who compiled all the Vedic literature. And he's going to encourage him. He's going to say, because you have the power, the ability to see what other people can't see, that you should compose that. Specifically, he's talking about Radha and Krishna's pastimes, that you can see that. You got to share that with people. But that idea that, what yogis are doing is they have the faith that, we could give different examples, like, dogs hear certain things that we don't hear, right? And, dogs can smell better than we can smell, like way better,
Much better.
And way, way, way better. And different people can understand things that other people can't understand, whether it's sensual perception, whether it's intellectual perception. There's gradations of perception, and it would be foolish, it would be ignorant, it would be arrogant to think that I'm at that highest level of perception, and that if it's not within the realm of my perception, I'm going to say that it's just false, it doesn't exist, it's meaningless, it's mythology or whatever. Now, what we're going to read about is how Vyasadeva is being instructed, because you have that ability to go into samadhi, and in that state, you can see things that other people can't see. You should share that. You should share Krishna's pastimes, because those pastimes will just open up a whole nother world of spiritual practice for people. So whether it's Krishna's pastimes, you're talking about the holy places, we practice these parameters. We create these parameters for us, so that we might be able to increase the ability or the depth of our perception to understand, even in the most simple way, even most practical way, to understand things more clearly, what to speak of, to really see the world in a way, or see things that are unavailable to that others just don't see. Takes a little faith.
It's the lens. It's the lens we're looking through.
Yeah. All right.
And I think we're trying to refine that lens. Just had to let a cat out. Excuse me. Okay, right. So let's dive into this. And we start.
Yes.
Sheep.
Let's do that.
A bunch of animals in this house.
How are the animals doing now that you're back?
They're doing good. It's not that cold out here.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start this.
Narayanam namaskrityam
Naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become completely eradicated, and loving devotional service to the Transcendental Lord, whose praise, the Transcendental songs, I'm messing this up, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Giranjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're here, 1.5, text 11.
Yes, Canto 1, chapter 5, text 11. This verse is kind of in response to the previous verse, which describes that there's so much of this junk food literature out there.
Junk food. It's great.
The junk food literature is a place of pilgrimage for the crows. So the crows, they eat.
Right. That's where we last left off.
That's where we left off, back in Vrindavan.
So where do the crows go for pilgrimage? To garbage heaps.
To the garbage heap.
They say we gotta be like a bee. We gotta go for the honey, go for the sweetness.
Yeah.
So we talk to people all the time, and we want to find good qualities in people. We want to notice their good qualities. I don't want to talk about what's wrong with them, and this is why he's driving me crazy, and this is what his problems is. When you get around those people, it gets so heavy in the mind. The conversation goes low. It's called gossip, right? But the Paramahamsas, that's what it says. The Paramahamsas, they're swan-like. They go for the lotuses, or the bees. They go for the honey. Find the good. We find the good literature. We find the good everything. We find good to consume, or else what happens? The mind becomes stored with the bad, and then what good is if our whole mind is very clogged? And we have this thing in Bhagavat Dharma and in yogic life that thoughts are things. The things we put in our garage of our brain start to become us. They start to bleed out of my mouth on a regular basis. And our thoughts come from our hearing. And thoughts aren't meant to be all over the place. We're meant to control our thoughts. If there's a thought that is taking me down a dark alley, change your thought. It starts with these thoughts. And if I keep these thoughts, dark thoughts, negative thoughts, it could be thoughts of revenge, thoughts of lust, thoughts of of greed, thoughts of manipulation, whatever it is, thoughts of anger. If we have these like sort of dark thoughts on a regular basis and replay them in our mind, almost like on a loop, they start to snowball and they start to become our consciousness. And so we're in a process of like chopping it, controlling the thought, bringing the mind back to the self. One way to really notice that is when you put your head on the pillow at night, where does your thoughts go to? I have this whole like nighttime meditation I've been on. Like
I know about that. Me and
Kaustubha having roommating. We haven't roommated in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
I could tell you some stories about roommating with Raghu. It's unbelievable.
Kaustubha is one of those Vata guys who just cannot go to sleep.
It takes me time. I wind down. It takes a little effort. Then Raghunath busts in the room like, "Hey, party time." I'm like, no. We got to wind it down now. He keeps me up for another 45 minutes, just like rambling on. And then he goes to, he lies.
My bed.
Then when he decides to go to sleep, he just lies down and starts snoring within 10 seconds. And I'm left there.
It's not even that. I close my eyes, think of baby Krishna, and then just thunk.
Then he's gone. And I got to spend another 45 minutes starting the whole process over again. I envy you, Raghu. I envy you.
It was fun.
Still, I feel fortunate. I still feel fortunate.
I slept on that plane great, too.
Oh, you did great. My wife and I are looking at you as just, we're like trying to find somewhere to get comfortable and sleep, and we just look over at you and you're
I lift up the arm bar, cross my legs, or sometimes even lotus, and just turn off. Turn off. Wake up 8 hours later. And then what do you call it? Then I drink a lot of water. I eliminate. Thought I'd share that with you.
Thank you.
And then I do some yoga in the alley there where the bathroom stalls are. And then I just walk around and preach about the holy name around the plane.
By the way, not only another thing about Raghu, I got to spend time with him as a roommate, but also as a plane mate. He was identified as the problem child of the plane by the head stewardess.
Yeah, she called me the problem child because I kept everybody awake. And I was talking to, you know what? There's a lot of people that wanted to hear about Krishna. And I felt like it was my duty. Why do you think Kelly's on this call right now?
That's why it was your duty to keep your computer on when she told you to turn it off, to keep therefore it was your duty to keep your seat back when she told you to take it up. That's all related? I guess you were just so absorbed.
I was pushing into my edges there.
Okay, but she liked you a lot, though. She said it with great motherly affection. She said, "You're my problem child."
It's not the first time I've been called that.
Okay. So, as you're saying, we need to change those thoughts. Our thoughts may go into dark places. And ultimately, yoga is about improving our thoughts. Yoga is about improving the mind, right?
Isn't it amazing? Like, with all the yoga classes out there, who's going to tell you that?
No,
the Bhagavatam will tell you that. The Bhagavatam will tell you that.
It should be obvious.
It should be obvious. You got to change your thoughts.
Yeah. Or
you're not doing yoga. It just makes a lousy Instagram photo. Here's a picture of me changing my thoughts. No one likes it.
You can't take a good shot of that.
You can't take a good shot at that. I know.
So, okay. So the previous verse.
Yeah. It's not the most important.
It's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. It's the real yoga, man.
It's the real yoga. So let me note that down. Changing the thoughts, right? That's what yoga is.
Yeah. It's the real yoga. Changing your thoughts. That's the name of the class, perhaps.
That's the real yoga. Okay.
Well, for example, I could be doing an incredible pose, but that's the equivalent of me, could be on the runway model. She's doing a pose too, or he's doing a pose on the runway. Big deal. Big deal. If it's all about check me out, check what I'm wearing, check what I'm doing, check out my legs, check out my eyes, check out my back bend, who cares? I'm not even going to the bikini yoga pose, Instagram things. That's a whole nother level of let's see how many followers we can get because I'm wearing a bikini. It means just I'm viewing with the eyes of lust. And look, I got 100 new followers today.
It could mean that you're actually trying to take other people's minds from going to higher thoughts, potentially. I mean, I don't want to be judgmental here, right? But
not being judgmental.
Let's get real.
Yeah. Let's get real. It's anyway, there is real yoga that's just not based around me showing off my body. I'm not even against yoga poses online. I think it's a good thing. But once you take a photo of yourself, you're not really doing yoga anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't want to be totally judgmental and so.
Oh, come on! Are you doing yoga? Take photos of me meditating. Give me a break. Come on. Okay, are you meditating?
Right.
How do I look? Am I looking serene? Am I looking serene now?
Take it from my other profile then.
Yeah.
I
get it. We're yoga teachers. We got to do this stuff. It's our living. But my best photos are when I'm just going and singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They never come out too pretty.
Okay. So we're talking about uplifting the thoughts, and the previous verse said that there's other literature. You see, we're in a section right now. It's such a great section. It's a section of verses that are glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. If you've been reading this and you've been reading that, and you dipped into these sutras, and you read a little bit of this Vedic literature, and you dipped into an Upanishad, and you read some abbreviated version of this or that, these verses are where the author of all of this is saying, hey, I'm going to clarify everything in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this Bhagavatam is so powerful because it's going right to the deepest, clearest, most spiritual insights. It's going to directly speak about the pastimes and the form and the qualities and the names of that divine root of all existence, who's going to be now for the first time 100% most clearly focused upon Sri Krishna, And we hear this in the context of his guru, Srila Vyasadeva's guru, Narada, saying, hey, you've written about a lot of stuff, but you've neglected directly glorifying that divine root of all existence, Sri Krishna. And you've got people confused. So let's clear that up. You've got the ability to meditate on these pastimes. Most people can't do that. Most people, their minds are unable to go within and connect to God within and see God's pastimes within. You can do that. Use that for the good of everyone. Don't hold back. And so he, in the previous verse, he said, most people are reading literatures that don't get into these things. And they're like places of pilgrimage for the crows. And we all do that to some degree or another, probably. Now he's given this verse that we're going to start with today is the contrast. You'll often find that in these sacred texts. It'll say the one verse describes this, you flip it and you get the other side. Here's the contrast. Ready?
Yeah. Next time you flick on Netflix, place of pilgrimage for crows, you should think. And anytime you put anything in your mind that is just, it's not even great for you, think of, I'm in a place of pilgrimage for crows.
Okay.
Okay. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of the descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, and pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards, I like this, bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Ooh. Can I just read that again? In other words, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men and women, people who are thoroughly honest. Thoroughly honest, by the way, means humble, understanding that we're a tiny part of something bigger. But I like this concept of unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. What does that mean? Who's impious? Doesn't that sound like some Christian leftover judgmental? No. It means when you're driving your car off the road and you're banging into the guardrails on both sides, going in the oncoming traffic, that's when we're living in such a way that it causes havoc for everybody. I'm living in a way, you see this happening in India right now. They're trying to adopt so much of this Western culture. And they are just like the tip of the iceberg of addiction, of 12-step programs. They don't even realize they've been in culture that's been preserved from a lot of these problems. And now it's very normal that the high class will go out and party and drink. They haven't seen what we've dealt with addictive substance or substance abuse. But they're about to encounter it if they haven't already. Or when you start to give up your culture and trade it in for consumerism. Have fun with that. We were driving by Noida in New Delhi. Remember that on the way back?
Yeah.
There's this massive suburbs being built in New Delhi or in Delhi right now, and they're massive high-rise. Congratulations, middle class. You get to live in a box. You get to be very American, and you get to live in a box in a high-rise where you sort of like, here is your space. You live in a box. You drive your car, a little box. You go to your cubicle in a box. You never even meet who owns your business, and this becomes life anymore. And we think this is called material success, and because it's juxtaposed what me and Kaustubha remember from old world India, which was village life.
Here's your little plot of land. Here's your simple home. Here's your cow. Here's your extended family
that you live with.
That you live with. Here's your good food. Here's your Mahabharata to read at night. Here's your kirtan to do in the evening. We were with Janeshwar, my assistant, who's from India. He's from Bihar. And he was just saying, in my village where we grew up, this is what we did in the evening. We all got together and we read the Mahabharata. We all got together and read the Ramayana. That was just what you do in the evening. And those of us in Vrindavan who were with us,
and we did this on the training as well. We have an evening where we get together, we sing, we tell stories, we have discussion, and we go to bed. We eat a little, and we go to bed. You know what? And that's it's entertaining, it's fun, it's a wind up. And we've traded it in to live in a box. I mean, if you live in New York, you get this. You have people above you, below you, on either side of you. Sometimes you never know who they are. They're living right next to you. You can hear them, and you don't even know them. So this idea of like, I live in my box, but I have no yard. I can't grow vegetables. I can't have, whatever. And you feel like
even the relationship with the animals is important.
Yeah,
isn't it?
One of the healthier things you could do, have a relationship with animals. So anyway, this is what India is turning into right now, and I sort of feel for them, and I know it's promises of great hope, and the hope's fake. It's all like smoke and mirrors, and I don't know.
So in a sense, when it says the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization, that the word piety we generally tend to associate it with religion. But here, I think almost what you just described, you could say impious. It's disconnected from its spiritual source.
Yeah, disconnected. I like that word better. Impious sounds a little bit Pope Pius the Fourth,
But there's so much in this verse. There's a few important things being covered. One, it's the same. There's another type of literature out there, and it says that literature connects with the glory, how the glory or the beauty, you could say, of
right.
the ways of meditation are named here. Name, fame, forms. Normally, when you hear these four, it's slightly different. It'll say the name, the qualities, the forms, and pastimes. But I think we're talking about the same thing here. That these are the objects of meditation where the mind's meant to be brought in Bhakti-yoga. The names of that divine source, the qualities of that divine source, the form of that divine source, or the pastimes of that divine source. And that's what we're going to hear about in Bhagavatam. So that's a different creation. It's full of transcendental words. They're not ordinary words anymore. These aren't words that just can communicate a limited amount of thought. These are words.
It's not Fox News. It's not MSNBC. It's not left or right. It's dealing not with the temporary. It's dealing with the eternal. That's something everybody has in common. It's the thing that's going to bring everybody together.
So although the words seem to be the same words that are used in other places, these words are carrying transcendental energy. It radiates spiritual energy. And if one becomes receptive to that spiritual, we heard a great comment. We heard a nice class on one of our last days in Vrindavan from a friend named Vrindavan Das. Those that were there will remember. And he made one interesting point. He said that bhakti is all about becoming receptive, preparing oneself to be receptive to that spiritual energy, to that spiritual message, right?
Bhakti is about becoming receptive.
Yeah, that means if I have to be humble to be receptive, let me become humble. If I have to be tolerant to become receptive, let me become tolerant. If I have to be respectful to others, let me be respectful. Let me do all that I can in life to become receptive to that spiritual energy. Well, what form does the spiritual energy come in? It comes in the form of this Bhagavatam. It comes in other forms as well, but especially in this form of this Bhagavatam. The transcendental words are in there. They're transcendental. They're radiating spiritual truth. But does it just bounce off us like we got a head full of cement, or do we absorb it? Right?
Or cheese.
Okay. But another thing mentioned in this verse is that it's meant to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. In other words, this book is meant to create
That's
change.
a t-shirt right there.
Yeah. It's not an ordinary religious book, but it's a book that's meant to change the world. That's another thing. Then there's this other interesting point. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed,
what do they mean by that?
So there's several. Well, there's a principle at play, and that is this: that three things are going to be discussed in Vyasadeva's literatures. Sometimes you could say four. That there's something called karma, where you try to enjoy the things of this world through the teachings of the Vedic literature. There's something called jnana, which can be used to indicate that there's a way to take from these Vedic literatures a path out of the suffering from material life, a path towards peace, you could say. And then there's bhakti, which means that I'm not interested in enjoying the things of this world or even escaping the pains of this world. I'm interested in divine love, which is beyond all of that. When once you get absorbed in that, the pains and pleasures of this world, you become superfluous. It's like you're beyond all that. And that's a level of sincerity, because generally people approach spirituality wanting something for themselves, wanting the things of this world or wanting to end their miseries of this world. And the Bhagavatam is going to show even the miseries of this world, even that escaping that is not nearly your potential. And if you're concerned with either of those other two, you have to do everything just right. If you want to do karma just right, you do these different rituals, and every word has to be pronounced exactly right. It's like a science.
Right.
You chant these mantras, you have to chant them exactly right.
Exactly.
But here
right.
it's saying, even if you screw it up a little bit, even if Raghu's telling a story and he bends a little bit,
Do I have a reputation here for embellishing stories?
You embellish a little, maybe. But even if it's the sincerity that counts, once you say, God, I want you and nothing else, then nothing matters from that point on except your sincerity.
It transcends these little rules. There are rules that keep us on track. Make sure we're not going south instead of north.
But now because you got to the main point. The details don't matter. You stepped out of in another way that Sri Vrindavan, he used this phrase where he said, once you give your life to God, he steps into your karmic mess, right? He steps into your karmic mess and kind of clears it all up. And so the idea is that if we turn our face from God, then we enter into like a system. It's just like, you're in the system now, and the system has rules. But once you turn back, none of the rules matter anymore, in the sense that those little details, you're not held account. It's ultimately your sincerity that's being accepted. And so here it says, even though imperfectly composed, I think Srila Prabhupada in the commentary may say, you know what, English isn't my first language, right? I may not convey the message perfectly, but because we're doing it with the right mood and the right sincerity, I trust that the message will be delivered, that the spiritual substance will be transferred from one to another.
And I think that's the beauty about the overall broad stroke of the Bhagavatam. We're getting out, we're reading it, and it's affecting us on our heart. Some people could go through, and people do this all the time. People do it especially now with internet. They'll take one sentence somebody will say. It could be a comedian, it could be a blogger, it could be some type of teacher, a professor, and they'll take it and they'll expand on this and blow it all up. Take the person and their whole life and put it out of context with one word that or one phrase someone says, and we'll make their whole life is all about this one statement. It's just not true. And it never happened, especially that much before the internet, but now everything is recorded. And so in a normal conversation, you might say something stupid, or you might say something false, or you might make a mistake.
You
but
clarify.
But now if you write something down, it's imperfect, it is blown up, and that becomes you, and you can just get immediately twitted upon and run out of town, tar and feathered, for this one thing that doesn't even represent your entire life. It just represents some human foible, something you just screwed up in a conversation, in a class, etc. So anyway, I think Vyasadeva gets that it might be even imperfectly composed, but you'll walk away with the essence of what's going on. We have Prabhupada is doing the commentaries on this. He's saying, I'm in Bengali. I'm speaking, I'm translating from Sanskrit, and I'm an old man, and I'm giving a purport to an international purport from a very, very sort of a closed culture. India was a very closed culture, especially before the internet. When you would go to India in the old days, it was like going to the moon, right? It was so different than America. That was very American. You can zone in. You can go to a party and people look like you're in a Brooklyn or something. It wasn't like that. When you went to India, you were like in another world. I mean, it was like that. Come on, you know that. If you go to Germany before the internet, Germans look different than Americans. They dress different. And I know because I was a dirtbag and I just dressed crummy when I would go to Europe and I'd go to Europe and I look at the way Germans dress, or they dress different than me. And then I go to Italy, everyone's just super nice. Even the poorest guy in the street dressed in a suit. The old man's walking around in a suit. You go to Spain, there's a different, you can practically tell where people are from by the way they dress. Now everybody dresses the same.
Yeah, when we were in the airport yesterday in Delhi, it was like Domino's, McDonald's, KFC. In Delhi, KFC.
Italy.com.
Unfortunately,
still got Italy.com.
But what did you used to get in the airport in Delhi? It'd be like someone would cook a samosa right there on the spot, right? And you like maybe get a samosa or something like that.
Yeah. I was saying it was the healthiest samosa, but okay, let's go on. I think I have to keep Kaustubha on track today.
Sorry.
It's okay, Kaustubha.
Do you want to read any of the commentary?
I'd like to stay to the Bhagavatam. No, I'm ready to move on here.
All right, you're ready to move on.
Knowledge of self-realization. This is text. Okay.
12?
Text. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord?
Yes.
Can I read that again? I just wanted to. Ever read something and it's just like goes right over your head, or right out the. That's how my brain works on a regular basis.
Okay.
Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of God.
Yeah. So what's happening in this verse is exactly what I was just speaking about. That two things are being discussed here. That's discussing jnana, and the next sentence is going to discuss karma. The first sentence is discussing the spiritual idea that I can escape the sufferings of this world through knowledge, through analyzing my way out of it and finding peace. It has nothing to do with I want to connect with God with love. It's I want to become free of the suffering. It's actually a type of escapism. And so the first sentence is saying a lot of people consider that to be the highest goal of spirituality. But here, Narada is speaking to the composer of all the Vedic literature and saying, hey, Narada, you wrote a lot of books, like, for instance, the Upanishads, where people might get the idea. People might misconstrue because you weren't very direct. People might get the idea that the highest goal in life is realizing that the soul is different from the body, releasing yourself of all material desires, and achieving a level of very deep peace. But I'm telling you something, Vyasadeva, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, even though you've given up all your material desires, does not look well if it's devoid of the conception, if devoid of a conception of the infallible God, if it's not connected to God as a person, right? It's just a neutral state. It's just like, I'm not running away from God, but I'm not connecting with him either. I'm just kind of floating in this middle zone. And he's saying that's not so great. Even you glorify that in the Upanishads to get people from totally materialistic life. I'm telling you right now, that's not such a great thing. And if that's not great, yeah, go ahead.
That's the first part of the verse.
The first sentence.
Part of the verse is when you devoid the pastimes, these leelas of the personality of Godhead, it misses something. And everybody knows that if you've actually sat through a Yoga Sutras class, which is, in one sense, according to Edwin Bryant, we can say the whole thing is directing towards bhakti. If you study the Bhagavad Gita objectively, the whole thing is pushing towards bhakti. Not like they don't talk about karma and jnana, but the current leads you towards the ocean of bhakti.
Yeah,
like that analogy. The current leads you to the ocean. But anyway,
gotcha.
Poetic.
Your head's not like cheese after all. You're flowing like nectar.
So, but here it's saying, what then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and the end? So even fruitive activities, it's what the Bhagavatam is pushing you is not towards jnana towards bhakti, and not towards karma in bhakti, because they're about to critique karma towards bhakti. They're just saying, you got to just jump to bhakti. You just got to jump off that bhakti cliff. Woo, free fall, and just trust.
Yeah.
Because these fruitive activities, we suffer with them. What does that mean? We suffer. Why do we suffer with them? Because they have a beginning and an end. I'm working
Transient
so hard
by
for
nature.
something. Transient by nature. I'm working so hard for something, and I lose it.
Yeah. If you are eternal, why should you
I make some
try
money.
to?
I lose some money.
Yes. I was
I
saying,
got some
if you,
fame. I'm not going to let you speak today.
if you are eternal, half a sentence got out. If you are eternal, why would you try to find the satisfaction of the soul through something that's transient, something that's temporary? It just logically doesn't connect, right? You have to connect with that which is eternal. So this verse said, again, and it's been happening already again and again in the Bhagavatam, and just for all our listeners, this concept is going to help you. It's going to be a key to understanding what's going on in the Bhagavatam. That one can approach spirituality to enjoy the things of this world, and that's called karma. Hardly even you can call it spiritual, but one can approach religion or whatever, the Vedas or God, to get the things of this world. One can also approach spirituality to escape the sufferings of these worlds. But the practice of bhakti says we're not interested in either of those. We're interested in going beyond all those. We're interested in connecting through divine love. And when you do, then all the happiness and all the pain in life becomes transformed into something that is ultimately spiritual bliss. So this verse said, you know what? Self-realization through jnana that has no conception of God, that doesn't look so great. It's not such a great thing. And what to speak of if you're only interested in getting material things through your practice.
Right.
So that'll be a real important
for stuff. You're praying to God for stuff.
Yeah. So okay. So now text 13 is just like boom. It's
Vyasadeva. I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah.
Vyasadeva, I got to keep that Kaustubha on track. He's like a runaway train. Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. That you can think about the pastimes of Bhagavan, of the Lord in trance, for the liberation of people in general from all material bondage. It's not all good. People say it's all good. It's not all good. There are things that we can do that keep us in bondage in this world. There are things that we do. There's foods that we can eat. There's drinks that we can drink. There's activities we can perform that make us feel trapped, disempowered, unhealthy, lethargic, dull-headed. We should understand these are activities, these are thoughts, these are actions that keep us in bondage, material. People in general, these cats are driving me crazy today. In, out. Make up your mind, cat. It's 5 a.m, cat. People have a taste for literature by instinct, is the purport. They want to hear about and read from authorities about something about the unknown, but their taste is exploited by unfortunate literatures, which are full of subject matter for the satisfaction of the material senses. Such literature contains different kinds of mundane poems and philosophical speculations, more or less under the influence of Maya, ending in sense gratification.
Okay.
These literatures, although worthless in the true sense of the term, are variously, by the way, he's the Acharya. He can speak in such heavy terms like this. I generally speak in more shades of gray, but sometimes Prabhupada lays down the law, and I just sort of like, okay. These literatures, although worthless in the true sense of the term, are variously decorated to attract the attention of the less intelligent men. People are always coming up with a new philosophy. Here's a philosophy on life. Here's my philosophy on life. We're not in Vedic thought. You never hear that. Here's my philosophy on life. They always say, here's what the Vedas teach. They're not here to update the philosophy. There are truths If you apply these truths, you'll feel free. If you ignore the truth and go on your own instinct, hey, it might work for a while, but eventually you might hit a roadblock. You might fall in a ditch. These literatures are the world. Thus, the attracted living entities are more and more entangled in material bondage without the hope of liberation for thousands and thousands of generations. Sri Narada Rishi, being the best amongst the Vaishnavas, is compassionate towards such unfortunate victims of worthless literatures.
You're eating junk food.
Junk food, man. Junk food. Srila Vyasadeva or his representatives are qualified because they're rightly trained to see things in true perspective. Srila Vyasadeva and his representatives are pure in thought due to their spiritual enlightenment, fixed in their vow due to their devotional service, and determined to deliver the fallen souls rotting in material existence. That's why one of the qualifications to even teach this stuff, right, is the concept of developing your character, controlling your senses. See, you could see in the West, we have this concept of the academia, all they have to do is follow these courses, pass these tests, write their dissertation, and they become a PhD, and they become the gold standard authority on this, whatever they're presenting. In these Vedic thoughts, this wisdom literature, you have to become qualified by your activities, by your character, by your sense control, or else that lucidity, that fluidity of clear thought won't come through you. Your attachments will blur your vision. It's so funny. It's so funny that they just to teach this stuff, you have to actually live it. Actually have to live it. You can't, there's no 200-hour nothing degree that's going to make you a great yoga teacher. Is that chicken in the jar?
Leslie Lotto, please.
Leslie Lotto, come on. I got
there
her.
You go. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, there's no certificate, Yoga Alliance certificate. I'm ready to get rid of this whole Yoga Alliance thing. Shine light on that. There's no Yoga Alliance certificate that's going to give you that vision. You have to actively control your senses, not actively learn anatomy. You got to actively control your senses and raise your consciousness to Shuddha Sattva or connect with Bhagavan. And then you can lead and direct. Otherwise, controlled by lust or greed or anger or fame and wanted to be known as this particular yoga teacher, you're going to lead with your ambition.
Okay, this is interesting, Raghunath. So going back to what you were speaking about earlier, our society is so warped, our vision is so kind of clouded, that if someone takes nice photographs doing asanas, we may develop faith in their ability to speak truth or something like that, to speak spiritual truth or something, right?
That's what you have to do now.
We may become so confused. And so what this is saying, this is Narada speaking to Vyasa saying, this is why you can speak the truth. This is why you have something special to share that people should hear. Your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You're firm in vow, right? You've disciplined yourself and you're situated in truthfulness. In other words, you don't think you're your body. You're not under that illusion. You don't think happiness comes from anything external, and you're not pursuing anything external. For a long time, you've been deeply situated in yogic thought, and you're not confused at all. And thus, what can you do? You can think of let's say meditate, right? And thus you can meditate or even see the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. You can share something special. Now, not all of us are able to go in trance and see Krishna's pastimes, but the more that we live that yogic life, the more that our perception becomes clear, the more that we have to share. And that's what yoga teachers should be focused on.
What do you think about that, Raghunath?
What do you think about that, Raghunath?
I think you're right on. I think you're right on. I think we have to zoom out. That's our big thing on this show. We say zoom out. You got to zoom out. What am I teaching? Where am I leading the students? Where am I taking this whole thing to? Where am I trying to lead them through? Like, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying. Is it just sort of like physical recovery, losing weight, flexibility? Where are we going with this? All the sacred literatures teach you're not the body. Why all this? Why all this focus on the body then? It's sort of like it's what
the focus on any focus on the body has to be in relation to how the body affects the mind. And if you lose that connection, you're not doing yoga.
There you go. There you go.
We got 2 minutes left. 1 minute left, Raghu. You got the music queued up? You ready for this?
Believe it or not.
Are you hopeless?
I'm not looking away at you just because I'm sending text messages. I'm doing Mara's work back.
Look at you. Look at you.
But I just don't have my
what?
Bluetooth thing set up. It's just going
to well, there you go. What are you bragging about then?
Well, I'm bragging about that I scrolled up and changed it to Spotify.
Oh, okay.
I was proud of that.
Some music will be played. Is that the idea?
Hey, by the way, Zoom people, I want to see your faces. I want to see you in action. I don't care if you're walking down the street, if you're jogging, if you're whatever, doing push-ups. But it's nice when I see your face instead of something that just says George's iPhone or something like that. I don't, Katie Risbaum. It just says Dana B. DT. I want to see that real face of yours because we feed on that. We feed off that. Yes.
Okay. And by the way, is Mary even here? Is she gone? Where are you, Mary? You're out in Tanzania somewhere.
Tanzania. She's like surfing some type of Maya.
All right.
Just kidding. We love her. With her brother.
We got Sachi Capo. I see her. She's here.
Yeah. So anyway, people on Zoom, people are listening to this podcast. We're doing this every morning. It's our daily dose, our daily check-in with the Srimad Bhagavatam. Forgive my long-windedness. Sometimes I just blah, 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 blah. But thanks for Kaustubha.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody who joined late. We had like 76 people today, including my daughter, Sachi Capo. Jose Valdez, Meg. This is going to grow up, and it's happening. I'm getting on Joe Rogan. They're flying me out there to be on Joe Rogan in a couple weeks. Can't believe it. So we're going to do it live from California, and then
you got a date yet?
Well, I'm going out there February 19th. Next 2 weeks.
Okay, in 2 weeks. Look forward to that.
So yeah, they told me it gets 10 million downloads. 10 million downloads. We might max out our Zoom group.
Hey, don't curse it.
Don't blow it. I know. Or he might just say, that interview sucked. I'm never going to do anything. Anyway, thanks for everybody joining late that I didn't say hello to. I guess we should be clapping at this point. It's
we had Bhakti Louie dancing over there. There we go.
Underwhelming without Mara here.
It is. We need Mara back. When does she come back?
I have no idea. I think when I go to California.
Come back, Mara.
Yeah. Aditi, good to see you. Yeah, you guys are clapping. Thank you. Let's just clap here. I can't clap with my phone, so I'm good. Oh, look, it's Jeff and hi, you guys. That's Roya, good morning. Letty, good morning. Katie Bell. They've got some people from Mayapur here. Katie Felici and Silas and Nicole. There, Kelly Scanner. Now we see you. CD. Come on, CD. And Dominique's iPhone. Come on. They may not even be there. They may be in the other room.
We don't know.
We don't even know because we can't see your face. Okay, see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. Kaustubha ji.
Great to be back.
Radhe.
Jai Shri Radhe.
Radhe. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe.
Do you know how to shut it off, Raghu?
Nah,
Do you know how to end this?
I don't know how.